Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. This is our 18th episode of this program, and today we're going to be talking about the Dark Knight Trilogy, which a lot of Nolan fanboys praise to be the greatest trilogy of all time, which I disagree, but we'll get into it, all right, boys? Why don't we introduce ourselves?
I'm Craig.
All right, all right, all right.
I'm Daniel.
Good enough. So as we know, the Dark Knight Trilogy are three movies that are co-written and directed by that weirdo Christopher Nolan. And they consist of Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. So we're going to start with The Batman Begins, which came out in 2005. And I would say that movie is pretty good. Right?
I agree. It also makes me feel old.
I
Yes.
agree as well.
Yes. I guess the only bad part, the only downside of the movie is that movie studios saw that you could do a grittier take on a superhero movie, and then those studios would just amp that up entirely, and we'd get what Zack Snyder was doing, his nonsense. But I think for a realistic take, or more realistic take of Batman, it's pretty good. I would say one of my complaints is the fight scenes are pretty bad in this movie. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
I agree.
it's a lot of shaky cam, and this is a reoccurring problem in this trilogy, is that Christopher Nolan doesn't know how to direct action scenes, and normally that would be a problem, but at least in this case, when the stories, at least for the first two movies, are very competent, you can forgive it. But the action scenes, or at least the fight scenes where Batman fights the League of Shadows, is pretty bad, honestly.
Yeah, I was that was like my main main thing with the movie. Especially so like for reference, I had watched this I think last night or the night before, so I'd rewatched it recently, and overall, I enjoyed the movie. Personally, I'm not like a huge Batman fan. I'm well aware of Batman. I'm kind of indifferent. I have like a neutral stance on him. So, um, but especially the end fight between him and Ra's al Ghul on the train. I don't know if it was because the lack of training with the actors, or maybe because Liam Neeson's he's a bit older, but there was too many cuts in the fight, and it kind of at times like could give you a headache. How like every move it was like a different shot, different camera angle and everything. And I know they more of do that when they're masking the lack of training on the actors. If the actors don't know the choreography that well, for example, like you get that with like if you watch the Iron Fist show season one, there's a lot of cutting because the actor wasn't like trained enough in the time. So I don't know what the reason was that for, but it definitely the cutting away was annoying, especially in the final fight. And they're both supposed to be martial arts experts, so like you more expect like a clean, one shot, longer shots of them actually doing the moves, but it's a lot of close cutting away.
I
I
would.
mean, I was just
Oh,
gonna say
yeah,
I
Craig, you
don't
go.
think it's because of like a lack of preparation. That because anything I know about Christopher Nolan's movies, I think he like very dedicated to the craft. So I don't think the actors would be unprepared. I think it's just like what Colin was saying. I don't think he knows how to direct it well.
Yeah, that's how I preface it. I was like, I don't know the reason behind it, but I just that was
It's
like the main
armchair
thing.
analysis.
With Daniel, what you said, I disagree. I think all the other fights up until the last were terrible, and the last one was probably the best one. Not saying it was great, but that one didn't have as much shaky cam, and a lot of the cuts doesn't bother me necessarily. Usually if they do a bunch of cuts, it's either to make it more exciting, because if it's just two men just smacking each other in a wide shot. It's not going to be that exciting, especially if they're not doing any cool kung fu moves. But I think, if I remember correctly, when he fights the League of Shadows in the beginning, when Ra's al Ghul's house burns down, that was probably when it was at its worst. It was just constant shaking, and what was that area called where the prisons were? They called it something. The island that was isolated, or that was right next to Gotham. What was that island called?
I
Wasn't that Gotham?
It's like
yeah.
right next to Gotham. They called it something, and now it's bothering me. Ugh.
Oh no, I agree. I think especially I in the end fight because a lot of it's so in close and stuff, and it's like quick cutting away. Like you can't fully see their moves. Like I just I don't know. Me personally, especially when the characters are meant to be like martial art based characters. Like I do prefer more of like where you can actually see them like their moves and stuff hitting. Some of the times it would like cut and like it shows like it's a quick cut and you see like Batman get hit, but it's like you didn't see necessarily Ra's al Ghul's full move connect. But that's just me personally. But as we get to the other movies, this is like a common occurrence in Nolan's movies. I guess you could say that's like maybe the biggest part lacking, with the exception of um, the third movie. When we get to that, there's other things, but this is definitely a common problem in his trilogy.
Oh, it's called the Narrows. What I was talking about, the island in the middle of the Gotham River. That's where all the bad people are held. It's called the Narrows.
No.
Where like Arkham Asylum is.
No, that's where I believe that's where they're moving the the poisoned water. They're doing it there, and that's when all the inmates break out.
I
Okay,
was gonna
so
say,
oh yeah, go Craig.
I feel like the reason why like his fighting style is kind of boring because this was like a realistic Batman, so you're probably not gonna have anything flashy. It's gonna be very precise, very to the point, no wasting energy or no wasting moves, which I guess makes sense for the story and for the character, but it's just visually, I guess, boring, which is what we're saying. At least for the first two. I know the third one's a little more ridiculous, but at least for the first two, it's like very, very boring and the elbow foo.
Yeah, he really fights with his elbows, and I don't see how that's like a what tactile purpose that serves.
Like unless he's got like his armor has like like a blunt, it's like hardened or like
I
a
would
knife on it.
say the elbow fu really came out in the second one. In the first one, it wasn't as
Yeah,
prominent. The only time he really used it was in the end fight when Ra's al Ghul used the sword and then he broke it just to disarm him. But other than that, they were actually he was using like actual moves. It wasn't just um, the elbow fu.
So let's talk about then Ra's al Ghul as a villain. I thought he was pretty well done. You know his motives. He isn't a guy that wants world domination or anything stupid like that.
like especially coming off the heels of Batman and Robin, where it was Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy and then Bane, like
Yeah,
all
being
like
some luchador.
stereotypical. Yeah, like Mr. Freeze wants to freeze the world. Like it's just like literally a night and day difference.
And also too with like Ra's al Ghul, like his plan is pretty straightforward, but it's good in the way of like um it's done well in a way where you can actually see his point of view, and it's kind of in his own way you can see why it's justifiable. It's not like it's not like a cartoon one where like Mr. Freeze just wants to freeze Gotham because.
And in a way,
Chill.
Ra's al Ghul is kind of right. How corrupt Gotham is, because he says something to Bruce like, "We've literally infiltrated every single level of the city's infrastructure."
That's how corrupt it is.
Yeah, he's kind of right. He said something like, "When a society hits its peak, just destroy it and
Well,
rebuild."
yeah, yeah.
Or he
I
mentioned
think
like a
he said,
forest.
yeah,
Yeah,
we come to restore balance.
Like sometimes you need a controlled burn in the forest to kind of keep it in check.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know anything about the. I know for the comics, for Ra's al Ghul, he uses a Lazarus pit and he's immortal or whatever. I'm
That's
glad
all I
it.
know.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do something like that because, like you said, this is a very realistic or more realistic. It's a grounded take. I wouldn't say anything's realistic. There's that one part where he calls in a bunch of bats and they break in through a prison.
Well, I mean, I feel like you have to understand too. I guess the time period when this came out, like it was I think what 6 years after Batman and Robin,
It was 8 years.
8 years. Well, point is like that movie was basically like a Saturday morning cartoon, and this is like again the complete opposite. So saying it's like grounded, that's like you have to see what it's comparing itself to as well.
Well,
yeah.
even for
This was
the
kind of.
yeah, yeah,
I
you
was gonna
go.
say this is kind of the bridge movie, almost like into the era of like then, wait, then you get Marvel's Iron Man. Obviously, MCU is a different element, but you started then getting into the like I guess better movies because up to that point you had what the '03 Hulk and like Daredevil and stuff, which I don't know, and then but for Batman's context, like
Spider-Man 2.
yeah. So this one I guess was actually trying to get like was I guess you could say like the first um like grounded one, like because Spider-Man 2 has the element like Batman doesn't have the superpowers and stuff, so
And I think probably as a character throughout the trilogy, this is Bruce at his best.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, because
yeah.
it's definitely where's the most compelling. If you want to continue,
No, you could go. Then I'll piggyback off of anything.
no, I feel like I cut you off.
No, 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 no.
Well, like you're saying,
Fine,
the most
I'll
compelling.
go.
Like you see his like how he loses his parents. You see like him actually becoming the hero, and you kind of root for him because like he's looking ahead in the next two. I feel like he's like overshadowed. Like almost feels like an afterthought. Like Bruce as a character compared to this one. Like he is definitely the main character, and you definitely root for him the most here.
Yeah, and I think also the more subtle things I liked were when he's trying to take on this Batman persona. Alfred says, "Live this life of a playboy." So he was never that before. He was just some college kid who ran away to train for all these years. And I think also, what was I gonna say? Anyone want to piggyback off of me while I think about? I just lost my train of thought.
Another thing too, like how in this one he feels more like the underdog, because the next two, I guess he's not really the underdog anymore. Like he's more the guy on top. So this is like, because as a character, I feel like he's kind of boring, especially more than the next two. But this one, it's easy to root for an underdog. Like he's the guy getting trained, a guy he's fighting his former master. Like he's got a lot more to overcome, and he's learning as he goes along. That makes him more compelling as a character, at least for this one.
And you also feel for him too, especially when he gets his parents' mansion burned down.
Yeah.
Well,
You
also
really
too
feel for him.
before he left, he disappeared for like 7 years. Um, Rachel, her boss, like the DA, like they they got the deal on the to release the guy that killed his parents because he had information on Falcone, and Bruce wanted to kill him. So he's kind of like struggling with like the justice and vengeance, and also like with someone that he cares about deeply is Rachel. Like they're using that guy to do something else, but Bruce just wants straight vengeance on him.
Yeah, because he was willing to like throw his life away just to kill that one guy. Because like she was right, like this really, killing him doesn't really solve anything. Like his parents are dead. Like what's it gonna
Yeah,
accomplish?
doing that's not going to bring him back.
All it's gonna do is ruin your life.
Yeah, and like that in the I mean, I don't know about the comics if Batman kills in the comics. I have no idea. But in that instance, it makes sense in these movies, at least in the first one, that he doesn't kill anyone because someone's callousness took away his parents, and now he doesn't want to. I guess you could say stoop to their level, and he'd rather just beat them to a pulp.
Well, plus two, like when these heroes have their moral code. I mean, obviously it's because you can't kill a villain in the comics and you run out of villains. But another thing too is like people like who Batman fights. It's like common thugs. Like, are you gonna kill a guy who like selling drugs or like petty things? Like, are you really
Where are
gonna
the drugs
kill?
going?
Like, are you really gonna kill everybody who's like doing like some minor crime? Like, this isn't like, Superman fighting people who can threaten the world. So it makes sense why, even like in the more of a meta sense, why he's not gonna kill somebody.
I agree. I agree. I'm trying to think what else. I think this movie's very underrated. It definitely in the trilogy, it definitely gets overlooked a lot.
especially by the one that follows.
I'll
Well,
say
no,
both, really,
yeah, I was gonna say even the Dark Knight
for
Rises.
completely different reasons.
Yeah, I should we get into the Dark Knight or any
I mean, I
any more lasting thoughts on this?
think it's just hard. Like, it's just a really good movie. I
Yeah, it really is like well put together. I also like the pacing on it. Um, it didn't take too long to get to where he is in like Batman. They also, it was enough. Like you see his character development, how he becomes Batman, what he sees, and everything. Um, and then also too I thought they did a good job with like Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul. I especially liked. Um, that was the thing with Scarecrow. I didn't feel like I thought they did a good job with him, like his part in the movie. Like he did not feel shoehorned in any way, which is always like a major concern when you have multiple villains in it. You always feel like one. You think of like Spider-Man 3 or where they shoehorn in this other villain just to get him in. So I thought they did a good job balancing out like Scarecrow and like Ra's al Ghul and
Well, you could do that when they're both not the main villain. He's not the main villain by any means.
plus you have more
yeah.
competent
Yeah,
writers.
Liam Neeson is literally using him just because whatever his fear gas, they're just using his toxin that he creates. Like I don't even think Scarecrow knew what exactly their master plan was.
No, he was just he would he only really yeah he was just being used to get the drugs in. That was it.
Yeah, he had no idea that Ra's al Ghul wanted to destroy the city.
Quite frankly, I don't think he cared.
He probably didn't care, honestly. I just thought it was funny too in the movie to get them insane, like so they could plead insanity. He hits them with their gas. He's such a scumbag.
Oh yeah, yeah, he did to Falcone.
Yeah, he's such a scumbag.
I
That was
need to
always
see my
funny. Like,
mask.
Yeah,
seeing the guy, like the way he was like acting to scream like,
Yeah, that was one part where I started laughing because he gets sprayed with the gas. Like most people are like, oh, what is this? And he just immediately starts screaming.
but I think I like that Scarecrow is some wormy, like he's like a worm, like a slug. Not a slug, but he's like a disgusting, slimy creature that like he's I don't know how to put it. He's slippery, and I like that he isn't like some brute, where he's just some guy doing these scumbag things.
oh yeah, it makes sense. Like, he's like experimenting on the criminally insane because, like, well, they're insane. You can't prove I'm doing anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, or he literally bails all these he literally bails all the criminals out just to get them to be lab rats for him.
because if this, I'd imagine if there's maybe let's say Zack Snyder did this, Scarecrow would be like murdering people and like using their gas, and when the people use the gas, they kill themselves, and he'd probably punch Batman a bunch of times. I like that how I wouldn't say Scarecrow's over his head, but he's like obviously no match for Batman in
I
a
did like
physical
that
way.
scene. I did like that scene where Batman, when he comes in to save Rachel, um, and he says, "How about a taste of your medicine?" He sprays him with the gas. I did like that scene because, like, again, they did a good job with the Scarecrows being like this scummy guy. Like he's slick. He's always I think the word over he's like a weasel.
Yeah, that's
You
the
know,
word, a weasel.
yeah. Like so, it was. I did I did like the scene where Batman sprayed him with his own gas, and he starts like seeing Batman as like this like foul, disgusting creature.
Yeah,
He's
he's
like
like
he's like
salivating.
yeah, he's literally Batman's literally like foaming at the mouth. But yeah, the one was Batman's escape from the cops. He literally summoned like an army of bats. Like, it's whatever.
It's
But
2005.
yeah, if that's like the only scene where I'm like, in the grand scheme of it all, I don't mind it. it's kind of like cheese I can enjoy in the movie.
Yeah, even though it was a little silly that they had a microwave reactor that would, I believe, destroy the water in the city too.
No, because
Or
I
it
think
would
the
turn the
micro
water into that gas. That's what it was going
yeah,
to do.
it would
Yeah.
microwave it.
Yeah. And to stop it, they literally destroyed the bridge, like the monorail system.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't that James Gordon in there?
Yeah, he was in the
Yeah.
tumbler and he was blowing up the pillars.
And the best is like when he shoots down the bridge, he goes like, "Yes!" I
Yeah,
was
he's
like,
cheering.
and then the best is like the bridge, like not only does it just fall down, it like collapses into a building nearby. Might have just killed a couple people. It
Hundreds of
feels there
millions
were,
of dollars of damage.
yeah. But I also I will say a quick thing I guess before we move on. I did like at the end Batman. He didn't kill Ra's al Ghul, like he wasn't gonna stoop
Yeah,
to his
he
level,
pretty
but
much did.
I mean, I guess no, I would say like he didn't kill him in the way that Ra's al Ghul, like how he wanted him to just behead that one guy,
Or snap
you
his
know,
neck.
yeah. But like he's like, he says the line, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
I mean, that's
Like
letting him die and pretty much killing him, but
I feel like it was good enough.
yeah, obviously
he didn't
we
he didn't
understand
kill
what
him in
he's
like
yeah.
yeah.
We understand
Like,
what he's saying, but Batman killed him.
but
I'm willing to
it's
let
not
it slide.
at least it's not the Zack Snyder Batman killing people where he's just brutally
No,
bashing their
that
heads
or
in.
he has a gun and he just shoots them.
Or snaps their neck.
Or he throws a big giant crate at someone's head and their head splatters up against a wall.
And that CGI blood.
Yeah.
But I do like when Ra's al Ghul basically like, accepted his fate. Like he was willing to die for his cause. Just that dedication to the cause, that's what makes a great villain, right? Like they're willing to die for what they believe in. So
Yeah.
there's little details that I
It's
like.
it's like also not only are they willing to die, but they believe what they're doing. And like you said, yeah, they're okay with dying because I guess you could say that's all they want. And if they don't even get it, at least they die trying.
Because that
It's like
kind of conviction, like makes you root for the guy. People of conviction, you root for. People who are weak morals, you don't root for them.
it's like Thanos.
Hey, this isn't
Like
about Marvel today.
I was just
you're a
saying,
Marvel
like,
fanboy.
villains I actually like. You know what I mean? Comparing them, like, where they are convicted in their purpose and they see it through to the end. But oh,
Speaking of dead actors, the Dark Knight Rises or the Dark Knight has one.
What kind of segue was that?
God,
So
can't help yourself.
I can't. The Dark Knight, which a lot of people claim to be the best superhero movie ever. It has a 9.1 out of 10 on IMDb. And that's pretty insane. That's like a really good rating. I personally don't think it's the greatest superhero movie ever, but I would agree with the sentiments that it's pretty good. I would agree with that.
You're not gonna get much of an argument from me saying
Yeah.
Yeah,
otherwise.
I would
yeah.
say probably this movie's strength is that in a way it's not really a superhero movie. It's more of some thriller movie. Cuz like we said the action scenes especially are weak, but when you are invested in the story, you're willing to give that a pass.
And
Like,
there's really not much, I guess. We say action, I guess it's
The
not as
fight
much like
scenes.
hand-to-hand combat. Like
Yeah.
I know there's other action scenes which I feel like are fine, like the chase in
Oh
the
yeah.
tunnel.
Just when Batman, whenever he fights somebody, it's pretty embarrassing,
Yeah, like, especially like at the party when the Joker shows up and
and they're all
they
just
all.
standing there with their guns, not shooting him.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if I remember, one of the goons he has a gun aimed at Batman's back, and instead of shooting him, I think he goes to hit him with like the butt of it. And Batman just elbows him. I was like, all right, like
Yeah,
Batman's supposed to take out the lights, take them out stealthily, not like show up like. I guess that's like the one downside to this suit. Like I think it looks pretty bad in bright light.
then you're
But
gonna love me.
yes, they had giant overhead lights on his suit, and it just looks really weird.
Yeah,
Especially since this is a new suit from Batman Begins. Because like the other Batman suits, even with Michael Keaton, they had this cowl, so they couldn't turn their heads really. So in this one, they changed that where he can actually move his head and whatnot. And it's just, I guess, the texture of it too. It just looks really weird in all bright lights.
Yeah, 'cause I think that like the combination of wearing like almost like realistic armor with like the bat head just kind of clashes. Like you look at it and it's like you really shouldn't. It should be like one or the other. Like it shouldn't be realistic, like too realistic, and be like in a superhero outfit, or it should be realistic and like like some sort of like almost like I don't know, some combat outfit, not a superhero.
Yeah, I thought his suit in Batman Begins was a little better because
Yeah, 'cause I think
that looked more like Batman. Like this just looks like some military guy pretending to be Batman.
I think also in Batman Begins, the suit was in bright light a lot less. Like a lot of the scenes he was like it was dark or it was at night. So
Well, when
I
we
feel like
get
it
to
didn't
the
look as
next
bad.
movie, there's even more scenes of him in the bright light
Literally
Yeah,
like
than this
midday.
one.
yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think the only scene in the first one that he had really lights on him was like the train was probably like the most light he had on him at the
Yeah,
end. But
because yeah, because in the whole like I guess third act, it's at dark except for the train.
Yeah,
Anyway, I
yeah.
guess just to say like what we said before, like I guess another I guess minor complaint is that I feel like Batman's not really as compelling as a hero this time. Just to reiterate what we said before, probably like another I guess nitpick because
he's
I feel
kind
like
of he's kind of selfish in this movie, honestly.
yeah,
He literally
maybe he
wants to
wants to
pin all of
retire,
it on Harvey so he could be with Rachel. That's literally all he wants.
steal his girlfriend.
You know, he's definitely Batman's definitely outshined by it's really Joker's movie,
Oh yeah,
which Heath Ledger absolutely nailed the role.
Oh yeah, that's like beating a dead horse by now.
Yeah,
Everyone
we don't have
knows
to.
it's critically acclaimed. He won an Oscar for that.
but like I said, people I think it's praised enough for a reason. Like I agree with it 100%. You
I
get
would
no
also,
argument from
yeah,
me.
I,
here's a
my,
little mine. I have a little minor complaint too. The third act is a little messy because there's two
yes,
climaxes. There's him stopping the Joker, which is kind of what like it's been building up to, and then he goes to stop Harvey Dent. Yeah,
that was my main complaint in this was I felt Two Face was was shoehorned in.
I wouldn't say that necessarily.
I I just felt that no, I mean like in the terms of given Joker how he was in this movie, I don't think you needed Two Face. Like, or you could have saved him for the third movie or something. I just felt like with how Joker, how the story was building, and you're getting to this. I feel like Joker's ending fight with Batman is it's take when he then has to go deal with Two Face. It kind of takes away from it, like the ending between because it's really Joker and Batman. Like Harvey for the most part is good, and then he flips a switch like quick, and then I don't know. I personally felt he was a little shoehorned in. I wouldn't say like it's like horrible,
I would
but
say the whole
it
point
takes
of
away.
Harvey Dent was at least his inclusion is that there's this guy who's so pure and uncorruptible by the most corrupt city in the world, and then just from spending time with the Joker and from the Joker literally taking everything away from him, was he finally able to get him? I believe the Joker says like word for word, like down to him and Batman's level. So you pretty much take this guy who's uncorruptible, and then you just you just break him and make him a
Yeah.
shell of himself. Now he's insane.
Well,
Because I was
I
gonna
think
say,
he said he's like that's the thing about madness. It's like gravity. He just needs a little push, like something like that. He said something along the lines when he's like hanging at the end.
because I was gonna say I disagree with how you guys don't like the like or don't like the ending as much. I feel like it's
No,
makes sense
I
because
just said it's a little messy because there's
all right,
from
fair enough.
a script and story perspective, you have two climaxes, and then that you don't normally do that, but I guess in the sense of the movie, it makes sense.
Because I was
'Cause
gonna say like the
yeah,
Joker isn't like a physical threat. Like beating him isn't really an accomplishment. He's just some average guy. I feel like the Joker, you have to beat his ideology. Like that's the real threat. Like him corrupting people, driving the city insane. That's why I
yeah,
felt like it was didn't mind.
yeah. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like from a traditional standpoint, it's a little messy because there's two climaxes. But yeah, I
I mean,
agree. Like, yeah, he doesn't put up a fight, and now Batman has to
Yeah, obviously.
stop Harvey, who is a loose cannon at that point.
yeah, undo all the work that they did putting criminals away.
Yes, that's why that like the actual ending of Batman taking the blame so they could keep those criminals locked up was fine. It was just like I said, it felt a little weird the two climaxes. I don't know. It doesn't bother me enough to ruin my
No,
view
no,
of the
that's what I
movie.
mean. Like that's what I'm saying. Like with like hard, I guess like having two villains by the end of it. It's not like I'm like sitting here like, oh, it ruined the movie. I think it for me personally, I thought it would have been interesting if you had carried Two Face over into the third movie. Maybe you see a little bit more of like he becomes a public enemy kind of deal. Um, you see more of a lasting effect on it, but it's the way they ended it was fine. It just I felt like with the two villains, it was kind of like Joker was enough in that sense. You didn't need the second villain, but it wasn't done bad in any way.
I think it was,
Okay.
yeah, me personally, I think it was fine having like him and Two Face because again, they're not physical threats to Batman. It's him trying to stop their nonsense that they're, yeah, like Craig said, their ideology he's trying to stop.
He's pushing the city to the edge, and
He's
that's why I
yeah,
feel like if you have Two Face in the another movie, I don't think it would work as much. At least this interpretation of Two Face, because this is all about corrupting the uncorruptible.
and also I read somewhere that they didn't know if they were going to get a third movie. Well, that's why
Well,
they
yeah,
killed Harvey Dent.
yeah, I had read that Nolan actually initially didn't want to come back for the third movie,
Well, it's probably
but
that, and they just didn't know if they're going to get a third movie. So
We can
that
get
would,
that. We get to that in a bit if you want to.
yeah, we'll get to that
but
in a little
yeah,
bit. But I think even if he had that notion that he wasn't going to come back, I think it ends great. Like I said, besides the two climaxes, I think it ends great with Batman taking the blame. So all the good that Harvey did doesn't get undone.
Plus, I kind of like, for these kinds of movies, I like you know, not they're getting a happy ending, but it's like a bittersweet ending where the good guy saves the day, but at the cost of now Batman becoming a public enemy. I kind of like those bittersweet endings.
I guess you could say it makes it. I wouldn't say realistic, but yeah, I guess bittersweet is like you said is a good word
yeah.
because we see so many superhero movies. They save the day. There's all this destruction, but everyone's happy. Everyone's okay. Movie's over. And here there's actually some consequences for even for Batman didn't fail, but for as long as he took to stop the Joker and whatnot, there's still consequences that he has to deal with because of that, which I liked.
Also, I guess which I'm talking about like the third act, there was so Batman was able to, I guess, put chips in everyone's phones in like a short amount of time. It's not a big deal, but like I don't know how that's even possible because that's how he was able to track everything.
I think they described it was something that using sonar from the phones or something like that.
Because I think he had put a chip in, or like he hacked everyone's
I think he
phones.
hacked everyone's phones because Lucius Fox was disgusted by Batman doing that.
I thought he put a chip in because I remember
I don't
in the
think he
beginning,
did.
didn't they say that they could?
No, I think they tapped in from like that like sonar computer, like the military grade computer,
Yeah, I don't think he put
and they were.
anything in anyone's
I
phones.
think what it was
At
is
least I hope not. I hope I'm wrong because that would
I,
make it.
I
I mean,
think
yeah, not a big deal, but
I think they tapped into all the phones in the area, and then were using like the sonar, like they were like emitting like sonar from something like that, where they used to track it. But I don't think he chipped it. I think they just kind of tapped into all the phones, something like that.
And another unfortunate thing like a trend this movie started, was the villain getting himself captured on purpose. They did it in Skyfall, they did it in the Avengers, and they did it in Star Trek Into Darkness. And obviously in this one, I don't mind. Like, if you're invested in everything else in the movie, you're willing to let it pass. Like Joker's plan is entirely coincidental, and there's just so many factors that go right for him. You're willing to give a pass for that, you know?
it's a movie. I feel like you have to suspend your disbelief at least a little bit because it's a movie. Not everything's gonna be realistic. So
Yeah. Because I know
Yeah,
there's
he'd be those
probably
people
some
who
people out
nitpick.
there who are like, "Oh, his plan doesn't make sense. If this took a minute longer, this would never happen." It's like, yeah, just let it go. It's if you're invested in everything else, it's fine.
Also, again, I want to, I know you're saying all those like bad movies are copying this. The bad guy getting captured. It's like I can't ever blame the movie that starts the trend because usually if they start the trend, they did the movie well. It's the
Oh
copycats
yeah,
like
yeah. I
falling
was
into
like,
darkness.
especially yeah, which we talked
Yeah.
about like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's like those bad movies copy. It's like not only are you a bad movie, like you're copying other good movies and doing it worse. Like,
Yeah,
stop it.
I would say another good thing, or another thing this movie does well is the pacing. It's 152 minutes long, and it does
Yeah.
not feel that long at all.
Yeah, like flies by.
Another
I mean, it's a
silly
good
thing
thing.
too that kind of bothered me was Batman recreating the bullet.
Oh,
That was a
that's
little
Yeah.
silly.
a little nonsense, but whatever.
Yeah, I think in this movie he probably does the most detective work, which isn't a lot, but he does the most detective work out of this trilogy. When he's trying
Yeah,
to
but
find when he reconstructs that bullet together.
yeah, if only it was like actual detective work, not whatever nonsense that was. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, your boy, his wife or ex-wife got recasted.
Oh, you're talking about Tom Cruise, yeah. A lot of
Yeah,
people didn't like Katie Holmes in the first one. I thought she was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't really mind her.
yeah, no, she was just whatever. And in this one too, she's more of just whatever.
I was surprised. Remember the first time I saw it, I was actually surprised they killed her. Because you think, oh, Batman's getting there, he's going to get there just in time. But then, oh no, the Joker changed the addresses. He saves Harvey. I was shocked the first time watching it that they actually killed
Well,
her.
and that's what I like with actually this, like, Batman. He really, every move he makes, there is a consequence. Especially like, in Rachel, which is like probably his biggest failure. Like she died. So I actually, I thought it was like they actually did a good job with that. I like you, Colin. Like I was actually shocked that they did kill her off because I know superhero movies sometimes can struggle with actually killing characters off.
It's one of those things too where, this is before all of the cinematic universes, so they aren't thinking about sequels or 10, 20 sequels down the line. They're just thinking about this movie, maybe another one. So again, it was a different time. Compared to now where you can't kill a character because they got 20 sequels lined up. You know they're not going to die either.
Yeah, it could be
Because
the
before the movie
most. It could be in the something that seems like they won't get out of it, and they somehow do.
like before the movie starts, they show you a trailer for like them appearing in the sequel, so you know they can't die.
Or like they signed this many movie contracts or this many picture
Yeah,
contracts, and like, oh, they're coming back no matter what.
Yeah,
Can we
so
talk about
it's just
Harvey
yeah,
Dent quickly?
yeah,
I liked him too in this movie.
yeah.
That was it. That's all I had to say. No, I'm kidding. You want to go?
I
It's
just
I
fine.
like I like how he actually like I like how he wasn't a goody two shoes. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, he was, they were, he was, they're calling him the White Knight. Batman was the Dark Knight. Like, but I like how he actually, he got like, when he was seeing the corruption and stuff, he was getting fed up. Where he takes the one Joker henchman to the alley and like pulls the gun on him. Like he's willing to get his hands like do enough dirty to do good and stuff. Like I didn't, or I wouldn't have liked if he was like, too goody two shoes.
And the thing also with Harvey was he was right. He was right that there was a mole in Gordon's unit, and he was pretty much right about everything he was saying in the movie. And then, of course, you see his outcome, which is really, sad.
it gets his life ruined just because some madman did it for kicks.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, there's something else about the Joker too, which I guess it was almost like I think this movie's PG-13, but like the way like he tortures some of those people, like it almost like does push the boundary. Like the way he kills some of the people, like the dead guy being thrown off the side of the building, hung, then slaps the window, and people are like, oh, like he's torturing that one, like the people he tortured on the videos. I mean, it's almost like not trying to be, it's not trying to be gruesome, but like it's very like maybe,
Disturbing.
yeah, like especially for like, children, because that is part of their target audience, despite what people would say.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it didn't like it was. I don't know. It didn't feel what's the word gratuitous. Like they were doing it to see how far they could push it. It
Oh
was
no, no,
It
no, no,
wasn't
no.
Zack
yeah, it
Snyder.
was all in service of trying to show you how terrible and
Like
messed up this man is and what he's
like when
willing
he
to do.
like what like they did this in a good way without actually showing it. But I
Yeah,
will
they use restraint. It's what
Yeah,
sounds
that's
awful.
what's a lot
especially
scarier most times
especially the part where he
is
kills
why.
was it the guy Gamble? Um the like when he first shows up to the meeting, the guy who really had a problem with him that he sent
Enough
his
of
one
the
guy.
clown. Is that
What?
the guy?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
like
enough from the cloud. Or he sent his one guy to like he goes, "I'm gonna make my boy rip your head off," and the Joker like slams his head on the pencil. But so when he fakes his, he fakes being dead to come, because the guy put out a bounty on him, and then he pulls the knife on him. He puts the knife in the mouth. He does the first "Why so serious?" And then he actually kills him. Like he cuts the knife through his cheek, but they cut away from it, and like you hear the music like as if the knife went through. And then at the end, he looks at Gamble's guys and he like breaks the pool stick in half, and he goes, "We're having tryouts," and he throws the sticks. Like that shit's dark. But they didn't. It wasn't like Zack Snyder would have showed them all getting stabbed and stuff. Like you get the point.
yeah,
You would see
Zach.
every
Yeah,
drop of blood.
if it was Zack Snyder, you would see those goons grab the broken stick of the broken pool stick in half and to jam it in someone's jugular, and there'd just be blood everywhere. I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the Joker quickly. I know we
Well, we kind of
mentioned
did
that,
before.
and I know we mentioned that his
Yeah.
performance is critically acclaimed, but he was another
He,
one where most of the stuff he was saying, he was right, especially with Lau, where he's like, I know a squealer when I see him, and then he sells them all out.
like I'm just ahead of the curve. That's how he tried to sell himself.
Or and he also called what Gotham would do to Batman when they didn't need him. That he goes, they'll turn on you," and he was right.
And I like how he was just taunting Batman to his face.
Batman's like punching him in the, like, beating him down. He's just laughing at him.
He's like, you
Oh
can't hurt me, pretty much.
no,
Or, or
that's one of my favorite scenes where it's
It's
like,
like you can't
look
threaten
at you
me.
go. Look at you with all your strength. You have nothing you can use against me to intimidate me.
Yeah,
Just laughing.
that's incredible.
or or he literally says to him, he goes, "Well, if you want to save them, you're gonna have to play my little game." Or at the first part, like where Batman just when Gordon turns the lights on and Batman slams his head, he goes, "You'll never start with the head. Your victim can't feel the next." He punches his head and he goes, "See?" And he's just taunting him the whole time.
Because like I
What?
think this would
Yeah.
be a good movie without like say this wasn't like the performance of the Joker, like hired someone else. I still think it'd be a good movie, but the Joker just is what really I think elevates the movie. Like every scene he's in is just perfect. Elevates everything. He's a and steals every scene. He elevates it. It's just perfect.
Could you imagine if Jared Leto was in this movie as the Joker in his interpretation?
Oh.
Well, I mean, they would probably not, do whatever that director did, but
Could you imagine if Ben Affleck's Batman was they role switched, they role reversed, and he was the Batman against Heath Ledger's Joker? He would have snapped him in half immediately.
like walks in, just like shoots them.
I'm not playing your game. Yeah,
Like I said,
yeah, nothing
smart
else.
people use restraint.
Yes, the one thing that at least the first two movies that Nolan does well is yeah his restraint, because obviously you could just go full nuts and everything would look terrible. But like we said with the Joker, where most of the violence he commits is off screen, and that's what makes him more scary. And you don't know what he's gonna do next. You don't know how violent he is. You know he is violent. Yeah.
or how he literally wipes out all his competition. He infiltrated just to wipe them all out.
Yeah.
I did I did like the little detail in the fight on like when they had the benefit for Harvey and Batman's fighting with the Joker and his goons. I like how like the Joker just used his guys as expendable. Like he literally grabs the one goon and
Just
just
throws
throws him at Batman.
He had like a knife in his shoe too, and he
Yeah, he was like getting so excited to like try to fight Batman.
Look at you go.
Or in the bank scene, like the guy, he just casually like is stepping around, and then, like the guy just gets hit by the bus. That was the one part I always that bothered me was how the bus just casually turns into traffic, like no one else would see that.
no one else would see the debris around the bus.
Or why is
Or
it the
no,
bus and no children?
Yeah. But overall,
but
pretty good
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
It's one of the few movies I'll say like really deserves the praise it gets.
yeah,
There were just two things I wanted to bring up before we wrap this up.
Of course.
When Harvey was talking about the Roman Republic and Rachel mentioned Caesar, they were wrong. Uh, Caesar was not elected the dictator to save the Republic. It was after the Civil War, and that was kind of a way to placate him after he won the Civil War. He was like the dictator for life. You know, not entirely, like, not a big deal. Just more of
All right, you history
nit-
nerd.
yeah, just more of nitpicking really. And this is more of like a side note, but like, do you remember all of the marketing for this movie?
No, but I remember the terrible Dark Knight ride at Six Flags. I remember that.
Because I remember all the marketing, all the why is so serious, why is so
Oh
serious
God,
stuff.
yes,
oh
yes.
yeah, yeah, I remember that.
I remember like it was everywhere, and people were like, that's when people start dressing up as the Joker, and
It was like I remember one poster. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is him behind a translucent glass, and he's writing "Why So Serious" in blood.
Yes,
That was
yes.
never in the movie. Nothing ever like that happened in the movie, so it's interesting that they would do that.
it just one of those little things. I guess if you were there, you wouldn't really remember. Like it was just nonstop, all the why so serious, why so serious. What's
Yes,
that?
that was all you had to say.
I don't know. Just I remember the marketing. It's just one of those things where I don't know. It wasn't even like marketing where it's kind of like multiple things coming at you. It's just like literally the same thing over and over again. Why so serious?
Yeah.
So again, one of those little things. Unless you were there, you're not gonna remember. Like kids born in '08, they're like
They're
14
14
now.
now.
Jesus, they'd have no idea.
I don't even know if that ride is still there at Six Flags.
I
Dark
hope it's
Knight
not.
one? I don't even think it is anymore. What an embarrassing roller coaster that was. Speaking of
Yeah.
embarrassing, I think The Dark Knight Rises is an embarrassing movie for lots of reasons. I think this is overrated.
For you.
I set myself up for that. Bane is incredibly stupid in this movie. Ugh. All right, and the fighting has gotten so much worse, and the pacing
Uh,
is terrible. So let's do one at a time. Which we talk about first?
Well, I wanted to talk about like before the movie's even made, like the fact that they weren't even sure to do a third one, and like Nolan says there's like never a good third movie to a trilogy. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do it, and then well, I guess you
You
proved
shouldn't
us
have.
right.
Yeah, Nolan, you should have put your foot down. And say no,
Yeah,
because yeah, this I wouldn't say it's a full blown mess, but this movie is very, 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 very messy. Very. Anyone
any
want to go first?
thoughts?
Yeah, Daniel, you
what?
go.
Yeah, I don't know. There, there's just a lot to it that it's like you're saying. It's messy. Bane like is more memeable than he was an actual like good villain or like an actual. His plan and everything was, uh, like and a lot of his lines, his one liners were kind of like I know now people like he's a meme, but a lot of his lines in the movie, or a lot of actually just the dialogue in general was kind of I don't want to say cartoony, but a little too like punny at times. I feel like.
I think you're looking for unintentionally punny because
Yeah,
nothing in this movie is supposed to be funny at all. They're literally battling for, again, they're battling for the fate of Gotham. And when things in this kind of situation come off funny, then something is very wrong.
yeah. Like I know we'll get to it. Like I don't want to keep jumping around, but like especially the ending battle, not just between Batman and Bane, but
Yeah, everything else is.
the choreography's bad when people notice how bad the background characters are in the fight.
It's so bad. It's like I didn't
Yeah, like
understand. Like it is so bad.
Well,
and that speaks more to
yeah,
the fact that Batman and Bane's fight is so uninteresting that you can start noticing how bad everyone else is around them. And it's literally like hundreds of people fighting in the street. Like you shouldn't really notice the background characters that bad like that much, but the fact that you see like some guys just punching air, they're blatantly missing. It's like they really didn't even try or like
Or like they're like just like
that.
hugging, like they're not even moving. They're like hugging it out,
they're like slow dancing.
like a middle school
It literally looked
dance.
especially Batman and Bane like they looked like two drunk dads at a like that got
Well,
in a fight at
we'll
a
get to
little
that
league
in a little
game.
bit.
But um yeah, and like the one thing too with like Bane's plan of like just destroying Gotham, but like he's taking his time with it just to watch the city descend into madness, and like they're saying they're fulfilling Ra's al Ghul's plan, but like when Ra's al Ghul was gonna destroy Gotham, like he was like the bomb and everything. It was all like done in like one motion. It wasn't, they tried to like over the years to corrupt Gotham, but when they went to destroy it, it wasn't like
They were gonna drag it out.
yeah, exactly. Like the fact that Bane like tells the city, "Hey, I have this bomb,"
That's
but
an
it's
understatement, dragging it out, because I think it was months that they did that.
no, and that's what I mean is literally he goes, "Here's a bomb. It's activated." Just
One
to
of
like,
you have the trigger.
even though they didn't.
Yeah, even though Miranda had it the whole time.
I was gonna say too, like this is what like also what felt weird about this movie was the fact they had a nuclear. They're holding the city hostage with a nuclear bomb. Like the other two felt, mainly realistic, but in this one, like the villain has a nuclear bomb threatening the city with it.
Yeah, it really just like ups the ante in a completely comical way. And
Yeah, which
again, when I say it's comical, it's I'm assuming on Nolan's part, it's not it's unintentional how funny this movie is.
And I will say, like, Bane's purpose of descending the city into madness really didn't make sense because I will say with Ra's al Ghul and the Joker, they would like use trying to get the people to like erupt into madness as a distraction so they could execute a part of their plan. Like it was for a greater like Bane literally just had them descend into madness for no reason. It wasn't like they were distracting anyone, the cops' attention, Batman's attention, so he could activate the bomb. It was like, no, the bomb's here. The city is yours. And then also too, I thought it was extremely, I thought it was
Hold on.
extremely stupid.
You're going all over the place. So before hold your thought, like write it down whenever
Yeah,
we'll come back to that. But let's talk about Batman in this movie, Bruce Wayne, because I feel like for his last movie they tried to make him the ultimate underdog, but the stakes against him and what they put against him again is laughable because they treat him as some old crippled man with no cartilage in his knee, and he puts on a magic knee brace and he's ready to go. It's ridiculous how they're trying to like how big of odds they're trying to stack against him.
it's weird too because like he says he has like no cartilage, which itself is like a joke. But from what I remember, like the Dark Knight takes place like maybe a year after the Batman begins, so he's only been Batman for maybe let's say like a year and a half at most.
And then there's this
I mean,
eight-year hiatus.
yeah, so it's not like that year and a half is really going to destroy your body that much. I mean, people do like professional fighting and they're fine. So I don't know why he'd be in this such poor of a shape. Like, I guess maybe being a recluse, but like they're talking about that's like residual injuries from his Batman days. Like that just wouldn't work, or that's not what happens.
Yeah, and Anyone else have anything to say about Batman or Bruce Wayne as a character?
Like like you're saying, they try to make him like an underdog, and it doesn't work. Like if we're gonna skip ahead to like where he's thrown in the pit,
Well, I
they're
guess
just
we could get to that when we talk about Bane, because I have a lot to say about Bane. I guess should we just go to Bane then?
Yeah.
He is dumb. He is so dumb. He's incredibly stupid, and it seems he's a little petty too. Uh, First off, when he first fights, oh no, let me go back even further. When he first appears on screen, you don't know what he's saying half the time. It's so bad, that voice, whatever accent that is, that Tom Hardy is doing is terrible. Oh, Dr. Pavel. Oh. It's so let's go to when he first fights Batman again. This is when Nolan's weakness of action and filming it is at its worst. Where the first fight scene with him and Bane is so bad. And I remember, Craig, do you remember Watch Mojo? They posted years ago a top 10 superhero fight scenes.
oh yeah,
They put
they're like
they put
clickbait
this.
trash.
Yeah, they put this as number one. So Bane, like Daniel was saying earlier, he just wants to destroy Gotham, hold it hostage, make them lose hope, all in fulfilling Ra's al Ghul's plan. Because Bane, he used to be a part of the League of Shadows, right? And then they
Yeah,
kicked him out because he was like a monstrosity or something stupid.
yeah, they said they excommunicated her for some. I don't remember what the reason was. Not like it matters.
Yeah, and he flies away half around the world to dump Bruce in a pit, and then he just like pretty much taunts him in the pit. And he's I think he wastes like 6 months just starving the cop. No, he doesn't even starve the cops. When they trap all the cops down there, he keeps them alive.
Well,
It's like,
I guess
why?
you say Bane's stupid. I feel like every character in the movie is stupid because
Well,
who
yeah.
sends literally every single cop in the city underground?
I think that was Jim Gordon's idea.
I thought it was the mayor's.
Was
No,
it?
I thought it,
Was it the mayor? He might be
Point
right.
is, it's
or,
incredibly
or
stupid.
was it like the other cop guy, like the other
Like,
the
I know who you're
yeah.
talking about. I don't think it was him.
Oh.
Either whoever his idea was, you never just sent like God. That's such easy bait. Like, come on.
It's like you're dangling like a carrot in front of like a pig or
It's
something.
Yeah,
literally pigs to the slaughter.
but you would think if Bane wanted to taunt Batman in a more successful way, he would have kept him in the city and held him right with him so he could literally show Batman his city's crumpling literally in front of him. Why do you send him halfway across the world in a pit where he won't know what's happening? Like you would think as a
Well,
villain you
no,
get more satisfaction.
Batman
Oh,
does know
there's
what's
like that
happening
TV, right?
because they're watching the CNN version for Gotham.
Yeah,
Because
in some
somehow
pit
they
that
have
has
that.
like in the middle of the desert, like 150 feet underground.
Because that's not CNN, that's local news. So only Gotham would get that news.
Yeah,
And
it's
like,
like GCN or something.
yeah. So it's not like, CNN's a national news where anybody in the country could get it. No, GCN's local news, and somehow they're getting that in some random place in some random hole.
They would have no reception where they were left him.
They barely have light going on down there. They barely
Yeah,
have electricity.
but I just think you would have thought Bane would have had him be right next to him, especially he's holding those like mock trials and killing off Gotham's elites. Like you'd think he would have him next to him, like, oh, look at your city. But no, let's just ship him across. He'll get like some like 90s television and get the local news for some reason.
And
Well,
it's
you
like, what?
mentioned,
Yeah, Craig, you go. Yeah,
well,
sorry.
this is gonna be a bit of not a tangent, but like, so apparently Nolan's inspiration for this movie was A Tale of Two Cities, which I've never read. I looked up on Wikipedia, and it's based off the French Revolution, which I do know about. So when you mentioned like them going after elites, that makes sense because obviously the French Revolution was about, killing the elites and stuff. But I just feel like that's a very odd inspiration for your third movie. Like it just every aspect. Like so you're trying to show, I guess, the rich are bad, but the only real rich guy we know of is Batman. He's dedicated every aspect of his life to doing good. So, and there's no real like I guess, great disparage between the rich and the poor. I mean, there's always gonna be someone wealthier than you, but I mean, there's not like they're actively being oppressed or they can't eat like the French Revolution. So I don't really feel like
Odd
it's a
choice,
great
Mr.
comparison.
Nolan. Odd choice.
Also, too,
Yeah.
when
I feel like it makes
Bane,
sense why, like, Bane's is revolutionary. He's supposed to be like acting like it's, late 1700s France, but it clearly isn't.
It's literally 2012.
Well, not even that. It's like, things are well enough where you don't have to have a revolution and start like killing people and having mock trials. I mean, it's very far off from the conditions the Frenchies were in.
Which reminds me too, this movie almost beat for beat copies "The World Is Not Enough," which is a James Bond Pierce Brosnan movie where Bond gets injured. I think he had a shoulder injury in that movie. He goes up against a villain who can't feel pain, and his love interest betrays him. Christopher Nolan copied a bad James Bond movie.
It's just very odd. It's almost like they wanted to tank this movie. Like it's very odd inspirations for like a third movie.
Did they go out of their way to make a bad movie?
Like I just don't understand why like a Tale of Two Cities would be your inspiration. Like I feel like for a third movie, I like the way the French Revolution ends. Like it's not like it's a fitting conclusion either.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just I feel like it's a very odd inspiration, and that's why I think the movie doesn't really make too much sense. It's like trying, obviously be a sequel, but then what it's trying to emulate doesn't really fit. So we get all this nonsense.
Daniel, do you have anything to say? Because I know we accidentally cut you off.
yeah, no, I was gonna say the one scene which I thought was incredibly stupid, was when Bane was reading Commissioner Gordon's letter. Like he could have easily forged that, but everyone just like takes it on his word, like, oh, this is authentic.
I
Like
mean,
he
at that
was,
point, though, like realistically, would anyone care that Harvey Dent did that? Did they not put away all the criminals? I feel like since a lot of years have passed since his death,
and it also doesn't matter because Bane literally broke them all out. So what does it matter if he did or he didn't? You know,
he literally just undid whatever Harvey Dent did.
the city is in shambles. Like, what does it matter what Harvey Dent did almost a decade ago?
Yeah, right. I mean, who
When there's a
cares?
nuke that could go off any second in the city, I don't think you care about what a guy did almost a decade ago.
Plus, I feel there's more ground to take on Harvey Dent. You almost feel sympathetic for him. Like he has his like fiance killed, has his half his face burned off, and gets like tortured by the Joker. Like I don't think you, people would be like that mad at Harvey Dent. I feel like you'd be at least a little sympathetic as to why he maybe went off the rails at the end. Because I feel like most people would in that situation.
Well, yeah, everything was, as we said earlier, everything was taken from him
Yeah, so if he
by
goes a
some
little
guy
nutty,
in terrible makeup.
if he goes a little nutty, I don't think people would be a little more understanding. But
I was also going to say earlier with Bane, how come he didn't kill Batman? There's literally no reason. I know he wanted him to see Gotham go in shambles and everything, but realistically, there was no reason to keep Batman alive. He could have easily killed him after he broke in his back. I don't know. It seemed very silly, especially when they're trying to hype up Bane. Do you remember earlier in the movie when they were watching the security footage of Bane fighting, and then Alfred's like, "Oh my god, these combos and his speed! It's like nothing he ever went up against before."
like he's watching like a Street Fighter. Oh, look at the combo meter.
Like, does Alfred forget that Bruce Wayne beat the guy that trained all of them?
Well, I don't think he knew that
Apparently he
at the
did.
time, but
But yeah,
I don't know. It's like they're really going out of their way to make Bane seem as imposing as possible, and then he's just so stupid.
Well, like the footage where they got that fight from, where they stole the from the stock exchange, they stole Bruce Wayne's money. Like I know it's a movie, but like again, it's supposed to be more realistic take. Like I can't imagine some criminal breaking into a stock exchange using stolen fingerprints and taking someone's money is legit. Like call me crazy, but I think there's some mechanism in place to stop that from happening.
Yeah, I'm totally sure no criminal has ever attempted that.
Let me use Warren Buffett's fingerprint and steal all of his money. I'll tell you how successful it is.
Well, it's like, didn't they plant motorcycles in there too?
Yeah.
It's all just so like, especially when you compare it to the other two, the choices they make are so baffling in this movie.
It's
It
bold in terms of
it,
jerking you around.
it seems like something Joel Schumacher would come up with his two Batman movies.
Yeah, because it definitely like again like very weird inspiration. I don't know what they were thinking when they did this. Like really, I want to know like what went wrong.
Yeah.
I know we got a little off topic about Bane, but does anyone else have anything to say about Bane?
I mean, the opening scene.
Well, yes, the opening scene is the best.
Not even just him, but the CIA guy. Like his acting was, his
Dr.
dialogue.
Pavel.
Like he's supposed to be with the CIA and like accepts people he's never seen before. Like, what are you doing? Like, and then he tells them like they're not my friends. They're not supposed to be with me. He's like, all right, get on the plane. Like, what are you doing?
A lot of loyalty for a hired gun.
Well, I get too. Like he's trying to like intimidate them. Like he
Well,
fires the
perhaps he's
gun.
wondering why you shoot him and then throw him off the plane.
Like he's right. Like, what are you doing? Are you a professional?
Yeah. Like he just introduced himself as CIA. He's like over the top with like his acting and being aggressive.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. Were they running out of days that they could only do that in one take? Christopher Nolan didn't say, "Hey, can you say that again?" and just say, "I'm with the CIA," not just "I'm CIA."
Yeah, because like usually they say I'm with the CIA and like they flash a badge or something. No, he's like has like his thumbs tucked in his pants, like saying I'm CIA.
Because
Very
I know
odd
Nolan
pose.
likes to use actual film stock when he films. Like he doesn't film digital. So to my understanding, you don't get that fast of a replay when you're trying to watch it as if it was on digital. So maybe he just never noticed that he just said I'm CIA because he uses actual film.
And I guess you couldn't like reshoot or redub it. Yeah, whatever. No one's gonna notice.
They're just gonna have a bunch of people laugh at it all these years later.
Yeah, it's been almost 10 years and we're still laughing at the opening scene.
Well, that was also another thing. Side note on Batman. So, if I'm not mistaken, right, like he lost the cartilage in his knee, and the only way that he was able to is because they used that robotic like knee brace that like locked it into place so he could actually use it. So when he gets sent to the pit, obviously that he gets his back gets put back in place, that heals. If he has no knee brace, how did he get cartilage back?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Ugh.
He would have just been limping the whole time.
How did Batman not die when he missed the first couple times climbing up that pit?
Oh, remember you cut me off before, but I was gonna say like when they talk about like how the only people who can make it out is like people who like have nothing and like have to fight for everything. Like, do we not forget like how much Batman's like trained and sacrificed to help people? I mean, I feel like I know he does make it out, but they act like he's like this again, talking about the French Revolution where he's like he's this privileged person where everything was given to him. Not really. I mean, he trained and fought and earned
He literally
everything.
like, in terms of Batman, he's literally lost everything he's loved in this world.
Yeah, like he experienced loss, but he's also like they're trying to act like he's never had to fight for anything. No, he's trained and done a lot for people. Like I don't know why they're acting like he's some like I don't know again like some aristocrat who's like never done any manual labor in his life.
Yeah,
Again, going with the themes of the French Revolution, but it doesn't make sense as a sequel to the previous two movies.
yeah, a little odd choice. And then
Also,
there's, yeah, Craig, you go. Sorry.
just what Dana was saying before, like how he doesn't have any cartilage in his knees. Like he had his back broken. Like how is it healing properly in a prison?
And
Like
all they
some,
did was they punched it and they punched it into place.
oh no, he's paralyzed now.
Get him the
But guy,
bat wheelchair.
but he did push-ups, so that'll heal it. Yeah, he literally was like dangling from some like torn piece of like bedcloth.
Yeah, that would have killed him. When he fell off, the whiplash would have just like ripped him in half.
Also, there's another character that we neglected to talk about was Catwoman, and I did not like her.
It seemed like I haven't seen much of Anne Hathaway. I'm assuming she's a better actress than whatever her performance is in this movie. Because I think she's pretty bad in terms of acting in this movie. I don't know if you guys agree with me with that, but
I just think every like it was just bad. Like her character, like she's again like a petty thief, but then she's like ragging on the rich, but she's also like a criminal stealing from the poor.
no, we were talking about characters getting shoehorned in. I feel like she was probably like the most evident of being shoehorned in the movie. She really didn't serve a purpose to anything.
Yeah, except for maybe those like few scenes where she's like talking about uh the rich to
Wait,
teach them
see,
bad with
Colin,
the
she's the one that gets Batman's fingerprints for Bane.
I mean, I'm sure Bane could have, just used anybody for that.
And that's the thing too, like their relationship where I guess Batman falls for her, but she's like constantly screwing him over and like betraying him at every chance she could get. Like
You're
up to
like,
the
why would
very
you
end.
pick her to settle down with?
Yeah, like she's probably gonna take whatever money you have left and run. I guess, she redeemed herself at the end, but like I don't see like any redeeming qualities up until that point. Like she's all about like for me, what's ever convenient for me, I don't care about anybody. Like that's fine, but like I don't know why he would love you, like, or even like you. Like you're the kind of people you should be put in prison.
Didn't you
Why
say
did
like
she?
to? Oh
Why
yeah,
did?
there you
Why did
go.
she stay in the city?
Well, the Viva la Revolution, they got the revolution. They really stuck it to the rich people.
No,
But
no,
she.
she got arrested. I think,
Oh. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then she only
Oh
got out when Bane took over.
yeah. And when she was walking in the prison, all the prisoners were taunting her, and the one guy put out his hand. She just like casually snapped his wrist.
Yeah, she did like a cartwheel over his wrist, and
Just-
you heard a
Yeah,
snapping sound effect. I don't know how that
pretty sure the
works.
guards would like beat her for that.
Now
Yeah,
imagine if that was Zack Snyder, she would have grabbed his arm and bit it off.
when she did the cartwheel around the arm, she would have ripped him out of their sockets, and then
And
you'd
beat him
see,
with the
yeah, you'd see the guy just bleeding on the floor without his arms. Oh God, help me! Oh
it
God,
hurts.
that's a lot of blood. Should we talk about Miranda or Talia al Ghul? Right? Should we talk about her?
Like she was kind of just like there up until the very end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was super obvious that she was in the cahoots, but it was kind of obvious. I
Yeah,
don't
because I
know.
feel like it was odd why like like again like Batman's judgment is just horrible to he trust
Yeah,
her
he,
with
he
like
was
all this
kind of
business
he
stuff.
was kind of incompetent in this movie.
Why
Yeah,
did he entrust Lucius?
Like he picks her, and then he goes from her to the Catwoman.
Yeah, what's wrong with Batman in this movie? He's pretty dumb too.
like I said, like he just progressively, like you said before, it gets progressively worse as a character. Like who trust? Like again, like knows nothing about this woman. I don't think there's any background research. It's like you know what, you take over my company. I have full faith in you. Now my lifelong friend who's like basically sees me as a son.
Also, too, I don't like wouldn't in terms of his character, wouldn't it have been stupid for him to hide and Batman just magically disappears with him? Like, wouldn't you have want to have kept up the appearance?
Yeah.
Maybe he did,
Like
but who
like
knows?
like in the past two movies, they took time to establish like he's doing one thing, so he's not drawing attention to himself, and then Batman just suddenly disappears for 8 years, and Bruce Wayne's gone with him.
Yeah, how did Robin find out? Like, it took Jim Gordon literally at the end of the third movie for Batman to tell him who he was. But Robin figures it out immediately.
It was funny. He used something stupid like, "Oh, the way I saw you walk into the orphanage, I just knew." It was like the dumbest explanation. I was like, "What?"
Yeah, so some of the dialogue in this is just really bad. The
I was like, "Yeah,
fire
so
rises.
Are we
so
sure Chris Nolan wrote this movie?
I think him and his brother came up with the story.
Did
Well,
David Goyer write this movie?
yeah, he's credited, and that he's a hack. So
No, David Goyer wrote the story. Him and his brother wrote the screenplay.
That's what it was. Okay.
'cause there's a famous David Goyer
Are you
quote, which I
talking
don't
about the
think we can
She-Hulk?
say on here. Yeah, the She-Hulk one. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
we'll say it here, but he's not the. Let's just say he's a little disturbed.
Well, his track record is okay. Okay, he wrote Blade 2. Okay, Blade. He directed and wrote Blade Trinity. Trinity. Okay.
Oof.
He wrote Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. He wrote Man
Now
of
that's a
Steel.
winner.
He wrote BVS, and he wrote Terminator: Dark Fate.
Oh my God. Like he had so many winners in a row. My God.
How did it get worse and worse? I mean, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. I don't know how he got hired after that god awful movie.
And he wrote this movie called The Unborn. He wrote and directed it, and it has a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is that better or worse than Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance?
I don't know, honestly. All right, we're getting a little sidetracked, but yeah,
Uh,
David
but
Goyer. Maybe he the SAG union didn't give him his credit, or the Writers Guild didn't give him his credit. Who knows? It just does not seem like something Nolan wrote, because it like the other two are pretty consistent with tone and dialogue and competence, but this movie is just something else.
I think what we should talk about next is the final, the third act of the movie. How it's just there's so many stupid moments in
All
it.
right, why don't you lead the
Um,
way then, pal?
If you thought it could get
so
any worse.
so the part we wanted to get to, we've discussed this multiple times.
Wait,
Was
before you
when Bat.
do, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Are you talking about the third act or just the fight scene?
I was going to talk about it all,
Okay,
like
okay.
the third act in general. We can talk about the fight.
Yeah, talk
The
about the
fight
third
scenes are
act.
part.
Yeah, talk about the third act.
So one of the scenes I can't forgive, and we laugh at it now, and when you think about it, it just is when Batman first comes back to the city,
Oh God.
and they're gonna they did the mock trial with Gordon and his 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 resistance group. Um, so they hit a bunch of Bane's goons, take him out on the like the frozen lake under the bridge, and they're gonna shoot them, like publicly execute them, and then all the guys
On the
just start
French
dropping,
Revolution.
and I guess to talk on the fight, like the one guy at one point just looks around and falls while Batman's beating up the other guys, like
No,
just no reason.
that's on the rooftop with Catwoman when that guy does that.
That's also in the bridge when Batman in the alleyway when Batman saves Robin too.
You
The
know,
guys just
you're
keep
probably
falling for no
right.
reason.
I would
No, no, no.
imagine. I would
It
imagine
happens.
that.
No, it happens at both.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I would imagine that they're supposed to CGI Batman throwing a batarang. At least I would like to think that, because that would be the only thing that kind of makes sense why he just falls.
No, they had one
Yeah,
take and that was it.
Yeah,
and
again,
then
Nolan probably didn't notice it because he shoots on film.
But again, like
Continue, Daniel. Yeah.
doesn't he have pretty good
yeah,
attention to detail? Like I have a hard time believing he would just miss it. Like again, I feel like this is almost like they just didn't care. Like they're trying to
yeah.
sabotage the movie.
Or they were like almost at the end of shooting, and he's like, "Oh God, let's just get it over with." All right, one take, everyone.
Yeah.
Because
But
like he said, like just a quick, step
yeah,
back. Like he
yeah,
said,
go ahead.
when he felt like he might get bored making this one because he doesn't like making like the into a trilogy. And you could see like maybe he was bored doing this. Like, whatever. Oh, guy fell. Whatever.
Maybe he was a little too candid with that in an interview.
But so Batman, he shows up, he saves Gordon and the guys, and then he tosses Gordon a flare, and then hits him with the famous "light it up." And then Gordon proceeds to light the flare, and then he tosses it. There's a trail of just gasoline, and it lights. It goes all the way up, and it ignites into this big bat symbol on the side of a bridge, and it's like I get it. Like the most the average fans are like, oh, that's cool and symbolic, and Bane sees it obviously, but I'm like that's just incredibly stupid. Like Why? Like, why
Batman
would
just
you give
blew
up the
his
element of
element of
surprise?
surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. And also too, like I know it's very nitpicking, and obviously this movie didn't care about reality especially in the final. I feel like at the part, like how do you get gasoline to lay out like that
Especially
on a
with these prices.
on a vertical
I don't know.
surface like that? Craig, $5 is cheap, okay? An
I can't
economist said
imagine
so.
how long Batman spent on that side of the bridge, and he would have to like shape it because it would be spreading all over the side of the bridge.
Also, how would no one see this one guy grappling on the side of a bridge in the middle of daylight?
Yeah, he has like that gurney that the people who built skyscrapers have. He's just going up and down the bridge.
You imagine a bunch of goons who are doing their daily like walks. Just they look up and see him and just shoot him down.
Like instead of like this 2.5 hour movie, I'd rather just see 2.5 hours of Batman trying to paint the side of a bridge with the bat symbol and gasoline. And like it starts dripping, like, oh man, it's gonna mess up. Gotta start redoing it. It's to clean the bridge and start putting the gasoline on again because it doesn't want it to drip.
And then
That'd be
like
more
another part,
entertaining.
like in the final, is like Robin. A bunch of Bane's goons take him out like to this alley. They're gonna shoot him because they realize he's been helping the cops underground. And then Batman shows up and helps him. And then there's the one part where Batman's fighting like three guys at once, elbowing them one at a time. And the best is like all these guys have machine guns and they still will not pull the trigger. They seem to think that the butt of the gun is the best way to take down an armored guy. And then one of the guys just looks around and then falls. And it's blatant. Like it's not even hidden or anything. And then so Batman then blows a hole into the tunnel where the cops are trapped. All the cops come out, and then there's this one part which is completely stupid and so pointless. Is where the cops, like all the cops, march up the street like an army.
Wait, before you continue, I must stop you because I think one of the funniest things in the movie is when Gordon recruits that retired cop who's hiding in his house, and he says like we're gonna lead the resistance, and Gordon pretty much gets that guy killed in the end.
He just widowed his family.
Because I remember the movie made it a point to show you, because this will lead right into what you're talking about the final fight. It shows the guy's dead body on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, you can
But
continue. Sorry, that just
the
made me laugh.
cops aren't armed, and then they just like charge the goons, and they like in the middle of like the street in front of like the town hall. It just turns into like this like giant gang war. But the choreography in it is so bad. And realistically too, the cops all would have been gunned down. They had no weapons or anything. They're just charging them. And they're like no
Weren't
one's
some of
like
them
playing
gunned down? I
what?
remember.
I
I
In the
think
think some
beginning,
were gunned
yeah.
down, but yeah.
But um they and then like so then Batman like shows up to fight Bane, and their choreography is completely horrible. But the best is like you see like the cops and like goons are like hugging and stuff, or like you see some guy just punching air. Like I just don't know what Nolan thought for the choreography in this. Like I think it's like along the lines of what you said, Craig. Like I think he was just did one, one take. He didn't care. He just was like, whatever. No one will notice. But the ending fight with Batman and Bane was done horribly. I think where Bane, who's supposed to be this brooding martial artist, is swinging at him, literally doing like textbook right and left hooks, like he's like an angry drunk boxer. And then
And he
Batman,
punches that pillar. Like he punches the pillar once and keeps going at it.
he went like Terminator mode on it. But
No,
like
what are
Batman
were
elbows
those
him.
robots where like you press the button, they punch and pop their head off? That's what it looked like. Because that robot, like, I forget what it's called, but people know what I'm talking about.
Rocket Sock'em.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Batman hits Bane once in the mask, and it like I guess triggers the pain in it. And like Bane, who's supposed to be this calm, collective, supposed to be this like bad philosophical villain, he just loses his cool completely. And then they get into the Batman beats him down. They're in the town hall, and then he delivers one of the best lines, but where he because he repeated what Bane said to him, right?
Well, I don't remember. I just remember he
When
says like,
when
"You
he asked
came
him,
to watch
"Where's the
this."
trigger?
Oh no,
Where's the
I thought
trigger?"
you were talking about him saying, "You came to watch this city die." No, I came to stop you.
Well, that, but also when we can't forget about when Batman is doing his Vin Diesel mumble growl with the "Where's the trigger?" and
Yeah.
then he does the "Then you have my permission to die."
I think it's honestly pretty funny that, like I said earlier, they hype up Bane throughout the whole movie, and he just dies like a punk. He just gets shot and killed.
Well, that too, and then her name's Talia.
Yeah, we have to
Miranda.
talk about her. She has like the worst death ever. It's so bad.
I mean, the funny thing is probably realistic. Like, somebody probably with that kind of injury would just like collapse. There would be no
Yeah.
like, uh,
Yeah,
whatever.
and she stabs Batman, and then she reveals that she was Ra's al Ghul's kid. Because he thought this whole time Bane was, but he was really her protector in the pit.
Just kind of
Um,
creepy.
Very creepy.
yeah,
And I don't think they ever explained how. I think they did. There's like a throwaway line, like how Batman survives the nuke at the end when he takes the bomb out.
that was what I was gonna get to. Is why this the final part of this movie is just completely ridiculous. Like completely ridiculous. Is that he flies the he latches onto the nuke because like the detonator won't work because she sabotaged it, so now he has to fly it out of the city. And he maybe gets like a mile or so down the like out into the water, and the nuke goes off. Also, it didn't go far enough where like the radiation wouldn't affect the city. Does that
Well,
did
that
Nolan them up?
that doesn't really matter. It's just more or less how he survives that. It makes no
Yeah,
sense.
Yeah, it's like he's like unless he jumped out in the water and thought he was safe and is probably gonna drown with how heavy his suit is.
yeah.
Something's definitely bleeding.
But
I
I
want
just
we didn't talk about this, but I wanted to bring up like how his voice got worse in every movie. Like this
Yes,
was really bad.
yeah.
it was tamed in Batman Begins, and then it just evolved from there.
Like The Dark Knight was like pushing it with how like bad. Like I get it, you're trying to disguise your voice, but like this one was just like like he wasn't even talking anymore.
Especially when he got angry and was yelling, it was really bad. Like with the "Where's the trigger? Where's the?" He sounded like he
Like
was
you're
so out of
underselling it.
breath.
It probably was. And then, of course, the movie ends with Alfred in some restaurant in France, and he spots Bruce and Catwoman together.
And you can't forget how um what was
Robin?
his name?
Was it
Well, that
Blake?
was the
Blake.
That was so stupid. Like there's no reason for him to be Robin.
yeah,
Yeah, that woman says you should go by your real name. It's nice. It's Robin.
yeah.
It
And
didn't
why
really feel like it fit in this movie.
and like why did Bruce and them leave him the Batcave?
Well,
Sequel bait.
well, no, not even that. I could see it where he's kind of like Bruce, where he's trying to do what's right and he doesn't get corrupted. He's an orphan too. It's just how they went about him. That they're really hinting that he's going to become Robin and whatnot. They literally have his name, Robin. Like they can't make it any more obvious. Again, I'm convinced David Goyer wrote the screenplay. I'm convinced.
I mean, again, it's weird. Another thing that I guess we didn't talk much about Alfred, like how in the first two he's kind of like helps guide Bruce and like kind of be a bit of voice of reason at times. In this one, he's like fighting with Batman. He tells him, "Actually, the woman you loved wasn't going to marry you, so ha."
Yeah, it's just really out of character for him.
Yeah, then he
Yeah,
leaves like for most. He's gone for most
yeah,
of the movie.
yeah. Especially like it was in the first one when like the tender moment of like you still haven't given up on me, Alfred, and he's like never. And it's like this one, no, he gave up on you.
He starts crying. I failed you. It's like, well, because you did leave him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like Bruce Wayne, you really thought leaving him was gonna stop him?
He's already a recluse. Now he literally has nobody.
Yeah, I guess to summarize this movie, everyone is just incredibly dumb. It's honestly like a parody of the first two. Like a parody
Yeah.
that isn't even self-aware enough that it knows it's a parody. If that makes any sense, it's I don't know.
Yeah, because the love interest. It's got the villain who's, I guess, supposed to be realistic, but is also like a bumbling idiot. Just doesn't
Again,
work.
David Goyer wrote this movie. You cannot tell me otherwise. After all these reasons we laid out, and all this stuff that doesn't make any sense, he definitely wrote this movie.
Or maybe like Nolan wrote it and like he came in and like did some rewrites. That's why.
Yeah, Nolan did the first draft, and then Goyer did all the other revisions.
It's like, oh, you're working on Inception? I'll rewrite the draft for you.
Turns out there's a Zack Snyder cut for this movie.
Oh, God.
7 hours long.
Oh yes, before we wrap everything up, I wanted to point out that each movie, each sequel is 12 minutes longer than the previous movie. So Batman Begins is 140 minutes long. The Dark Knight is 152, and The Dark Knight Rises is 164.
It's an odd fact.
I just wanted to point that out.
Was there a specific reason behind that, or
No, it's just how it is, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, how could we forget our favorite quarterback cameoed in this movie?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Or Heinz Ward. Yeah, let's not talk about those clowns.
But, he'll live on in film history as whatever team Gotham had.
The Gotham women respecters.
Yeah.
Any
I
final
forgot. I
thoughts?
forgot about that cameo. Yeah.
Well, Craig clearly didn't. Any
Oh.
final thoughts?
First two are really good. You can skip the last one.
Yeah, such a disappointing end. They should have just left it at two. Then everything has to be a trilogy.
Yeah, it's this is the Dark Knight duology. The third one is so bad.
Also, too, that just reminded me of how the third one ended. Like, I want to compare it to like how they ended, because it does draw like similar, especially how they ended like Captain America in the MCU, like and how they ended Batman. Like
This
he
isn't
gave up
about Marvel.
A Marvel fanboy.
or whatever. But the reason I'm saying this is because it was so out of their characters to end it the way they did. Like how they ended it in Dark Knight was very much in Batman's character. Being, taking that, taking on the hate and everything for the greater good, or like, but then he just gives up being Batman to like retire and stuff. Like,
To be with
it
the
isn't
woman
the
who like basically will like betray him the first
yeah,
chance he
like
gets.
yeah, it's I don't know. It just wasn't. I guess it's not the essence of Batman.
You know what
Like
that is? It's bad writing.
yeah, or like yeah, like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, like when he's willing to give up being Spider-Man to go to London with the girl he loves. It's like that's not really the character. Their characters are about sacrifice, doing it for the greater good. But it was a quick side note. Like it just bad writing for the ending of
Sounds
the
like they're a bunch
character.
of simps.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's a nice way to conclude this episode. This has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Batman.
Yeah, that's our episode. Yeah.